Hello everyone, Kurt Holfeder here, and welcome back to another episode from Holfeder Labs. Today we're going to be continuing on with the Fiore Dagger section with a section that I personally really love, which is the Fifth Master Dagger plays. Fifth Master is a look at what happens in when someone has latched onto us and then has their dagger hand either free or ready to draw or something along those lines. We have several different ways in which we're going to explore that today, as far as what the context for this might be, and that how we may find ourselves into, or I'm sorry, what kind of benefits are if someone grabs onto us, what their advantages are, and what our advantages are. Because Fifth Master as itself is, even though someone's making contact with you, now you've got something to work off there, and we're going to be talking about that today. A quick note of safety. So for people that practice this, or maybe doing this with a friend or something like that back home, Fifth Master is one of those plays that is very hard to replicate without effectively hurting somebody, as you'll see here. So please understand, when we go into this, there are safe ways to train this. I would encourage you to make sure that you're with a martial arts instructor here, or take it very slow and not actually go through certain things because of what this is going to be, because we like to train with our partners out there. And if we injure them, well, that's a big problem. So please consider the people that you're training with. So with that being the case here, before I yammer on too much more here, let's get into it.
So this week we're going to be looking into the Fifth Master plays like we talked about before. And just like we've been doing with the past couple of masters here, we're going to be talking about the setup and some considerations off of the first play of the Fifth Master. Some considerations that may get us into that, and also some setup things or observations that we may or may not be seeing here, because just based off the image and by doing it. So the Fifth Master Dagger, unlike some of the other ones, is talking about utilizing, instead of dealing with someone that's attacking onto a person, they've made contact with their body first with their offhand in some form or fashion, and they are ready to strike with the other dagger. Now, as the image shows here, you see the guy who's doing this right across here, and he's got his hands up. Now, right off the bat here, you talk about how he can mess up the arm. There's lots of things that can come with this. And essentially, by him grabbing like this right here, he is at a great disadvantage because of what I can do to him. We're going to talk a little bit about what that may or may not be here, because one of the things that also said there is that essentially I can do all the plays and parries and remedies that I did before in other masters on this arm here. So instead of being on this side here where I've come across and started working on this one arm, I now am in a place here that by default, essentially all the other plays I could do before against the dagger, I now have the ability to deal with my arm right here, deal with the arm that's grabbing me. A couple of points about this that I think are very important to kind of context-wise here is that essentially one thing that happens when somebody grabs, it's not just the elbow that we're looking at here as far as like being at a disadvantage, which is the obvious thing that we see in the strike. It's also the hand and the fingers. And the reason why I say this is because essentially when he grabs onto me right here, his fingers are wrapped around and he's got cloth in here. So when you see the up portion right here, where he comes across here and breaking the arm and causing things on this right here, off that first portion of the Fifth Master play, by just maybe grabbing onto his hand, he can no longer let go now. Even if he opens up his hand here, my cloth...
Which I'm trying to do.
Yeah. All I'm doing here is hholding with one hand. Now, mind you, this is a static position here. He's, of course, me putting fingers in my face, kicking me, whatever the case here. But just by trying to let go, he can't, because I am now, let go for a second, I'm using the cloth that he's grabbed into right here against him. Okay, so that's an advantage. So when we see the image here coming up here onto the side, there's a couple of things that happen. We're not striking then grabbing, I don't think. What I think is happening here, we are grabbing then striking. I'm grabbing this here because I want to secure him in place, so as I repeatedly smash his arm as much as I possibly need to, or in continuations of plays later on in this, I want this to be really bad for his wrist, and I really want his arm to stay in a certain place here when it comes down to it. So that's a big part about this when you start talking about grabbing onto the person right here. As much as he is allowing himself to gain control of me, and he certainly can, he can grab onto me here and then pull the knife in any sort of fashion here, whether it be above, below, whatever. He can now bend his elbow and pull me into his body right here, which makes it a lot easier for him to manipulate and control on me. So those are some things about this to kind of look at when we talk about fifth Master Dagger itself. So to kind of keep along with the text here that what it's talking about, we're going to look at about, so what are some of the ways in which we can deal with this? So unlike before, so we talk about our third master counter. So if he comes with a revezzo shot here, we know by coming across here, I can take this elbow and then push up and over and create this here where I get to the lower lock. That's one option, right? I can also, if he comes from on this side over here, there's ways I can grab his elbow and work into ligadura and other places here, okay? All of these are taking the dagger portion out of play, which is an important fact in this, because remember we have the 5 things that come down to Fiore. We have to get the dagger away from this. In this situation here, the dagger has not yet been presented itself. Even though the depiction shows the guy on the ground with the dagger behind him like this, I kind of also wonder too, could this also be a discussion about escalation? So before he even gets the dagger up, so right here, let's just say he has like the dagger on him right here. Just going to tuck it into your pocket right here, right? So maybe, and again, this is just a lesson in what you can do of it. He grabs at me from off this right here. I'm not going to waste time with this. I'm going to work off this right off the bat, right? And by working off this right off the bat, I've got all sorts of places I can work in here. First place of Arbitrary, working across here, move inside. I can go from here. I can push up and over into the shirt. I can do all sorts of matter here that are on the body right here. He's not got the dagger into place. The thing about this is that becomes very fast. It becomes very short-lived, very quick. Because in an instant, he can grab his knife, and now I'm in a spot. If I'm here, I've got to deal with this thing that's coming in on me, and he's closing with a lot more shot value on me. So understand that when we talk about this, we're not moving in to cause different types of shapes in here. We are in a position here where essentially they've made contact with us. So again, just looking at some of the obvious ones with this, if I'm trying to come across, if he really grips in here, I can't do this. I can't come over, but I can go to his face. I can start messing with his face here. Just okay. Okay. I can do all sorts of things here. I might be able to pop here, move into his face right here, kick him in the groin, other places that come off of that, right? I can grab onto this, turn his wrist over, and now I can bring him into the lower lock of the third master. If he's gripping really hard here, I bring myself up here into fourth master. Actually, it'd be the opposite side right here. Again, his arm is straight, so I don't necessarily have the play that I want. But this allows me also to work inside here to come across. Mind you, this is happening where Connor is being really good and not actually fighting me here, and it's not causing effect. So again, thinking about the plays here, I can do all the parries and things that happened in previous masters. At the same time, too, we're talking about the initial shot. So he comes in here, grabs, I come up here, I grab this. Maybe he comes up with a dagger shot here. As soon as this is coming down at me, I can make that first master cover, right? I can also make that second master cover. I can also make that fourth master cover. The difference here is, part of the reason here, now what you might be thinking is like, well, your elbow's right there. Remember the shirt. So it's going to take him a second. It's going to take him a second to let go of this and untangle this. It's not like he's grab onto my shoulder. Where he's onto my shoulder right here, where it just takes lifting the hand off. He's no longer entangled with this. With him being grabbed in right here, if I'm on this spot right here, as soon as he comes in with this, he pops with the dagger, I go to fourth master. As soon as I can feel, now I've got contact to my body, where he starts to let go to do something with this right here, I've got time to work into a play. Or into a second master kind of comes. Again, he comes in right here, up, into second master, moving it across the body. Remember, he's being a very good uke right now. But again, why is this a factor? Part of this comes into mind right here is we're talking about the grip on the person. It doesn't mean that it's going to stop the person. It doesn't mean that it's not going to make it easier for him to grab you. It means that you have seconds more than someone being like this on the body versus someone being, I'm grabbed right here, I'm scruffing you up. Because I have to let go of this, which, man, he feels this a lot more. Here, of course I can move off, of course he feels released, but when I'm doing this to him right here, jerking around on this, there's a lot more time. And if he starts turning his body the way, this way? Yep. There's even more here where it ties into the by portion. Even if I don't let go, I let go out of consideration. Step forward here a little bit. If he turns away like he just did, if I don't go like this, yeah, I've got the back here, but he also now has that elbows. He's got other plays right here that he can work on off of those types of things. So again, we're talking about that grab being that first portion within the fifth master. Big consideration which makes the break work, okay? So now we're talking about the actual striking concept of fifth master. And to be very honest with you, I really do see this here as a consideration that we're dealing with here, that you may have to work off with, that you may be trying to set up into action, right? So essentially, if we go based up straight off of the text, what we see here with the image, the person's grabbed onto me, we're here in this situation, and he's reached out at me. So his arm is straight, he's not bending it, he's not, and if he was, there's ways to attack that later on, but right now we're just talking the arm is straight. Even if his arm is a little bit bent, so like this right here, me coming here and grabbing onto this, I can turn and rotate. If he resists me on this, there's still very much where I have strength in there where I can start still pushing this over. Him gripping and resisting it actually makes this more rigid. It doesn't mean that I will always be able to turn somebody. It just means that now we're starting to get muscular and bone structure that's straight, which makes this side profile shot so much more effective. Remember when we come down to this, big thing that comes to this right here, securing the hand, right? Secure the hand as fast as possible and then snap. Personally, one of the things that I see within the images, the guys like this, I think he's partially turning into this, which signifies that he is doing a full wham into the guy as hard as he can to be able to cause as much harm to turn the body. So if I maintain this, and I'm just going to push the body here, I can't replicate this as best as I could. I like Connor, and I want him to be able to fight more often, right? So if I slam as hard as I can here, like this right here, as much as possible. Say in this situation here, he's starting to bring up the knife. I'm doing this. Now I've got control. So that first shot may or may not turn his body. Remember, he is not in a mind to fight right now. He is in a position where he's demonstrating right here for the purpose of these videos. So a person that seriously wants to hurt you may or may not actually turn this way, which is why essentially here, this first shot has got to be as hard as possible in there, and we're going to try to strike against the elbow. Can you roll up your sleeve here for a second? Absolutely. So when I talk about the arm, so we're talking about here is, if his arm is like this, it doesn't have as much of effect. It might turn him inward, which is just as fine too, because there's other places I can do off this. Now we're trying to talk about first master adversary place where I can come across his body and throw him over myself. Even almost looks a little bit like third master in some ways. Similar concepts. But we're talking, if his arm is straight, where his elbow is now facing towards the wall here, I have everything I can just to cause that kind of a turn and break here. Mind you, I have straight legs, so this might be, if I'm turning the whole body, it's going to be a lot more rotational. Think volts, stabile, mesovolts, whatever the case right here, something that's going to allow you to break as hard as you can to turn him. By striking in here as hard as possible, remember, the human body does not want to get itself injured, and the mind will sit there and like it'll give way to certain things. It doesn't mean that they won't fight through pain and certain things, that doesn't mean that whatsoever. But off of first glance, you're not going to want to go, if you don't want your arm broken, which in this case the person may not, they're not just going to stand there and take it. There's a good possibility that you're going to at least turn him off a little bit right here, which gives you an advantage. So for fifth master right here, the reason why fifth master daggers for me is so interesting, and you don't see this in the image because unfortunately it's a moment in time. What I think fifth master looks like, and I'm going to demonstrate here, but I'm going to keep it controlled, is off of this, I'm coming right here, and if he starts to bring up his knife, I'm coming across by here. This essentially is what fifth master dagger is to me. The picture doesn't show the full totality of it all because it can't. What's important here is learning how to put the strike in the right spot, which therefore turns the person into a direction, okay? As Billy Badass as some of us are, us going like right here up to the arm might be enough to break someone's elbow, might be enough to start tearing bicep muscle, but the likelihood that as soon as this happens, the person's going to want to control themselves as much as possible. So they're probably going to go with a certain form with it all, which is why this other point right here, we're using the grip against them having against us right here, against them, to be able to make that turn happen possibly right here. And now I've got other plays I can start working off of. So that's a lot there to kind of enter into as far as fifth master. Fifth master to me is not just about going here as fast as possible. It's about trying to cause hurt, misdirection to this person here who may or may not have a knife out yet, who may or may not have anything else out, that is taking action. One more consideration, and this is something else that we train within our class, and again, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but it also comes down to the fact where we're seeing here where the guy, so again, if we take this picture for what it just is like this, right? And then we're in a position, right? But a dagger attack you can go from a fifth master counter into a fifth master consideration. And what I mean by that is, maybe he decides to throw a dagger shot at me. And I come right here, I start working the arm, and he grabs my shirt. And then he retracts it, which gives me the opportunity to go backwards. And now I'm in this position right here where I have a fifth master kind of situation. So understand, we're going to explore that a little bit in the videos to come here, that fifth master itself could either be, dagger away please. It could be either he comes in and grabs, and then from here I grab onto him, escalation. It could be he's got the dagger already, he's got his dagger high behind him, he's wanting me to seize right here, I come right here and I'm going into the arm. It could also be where he comes in and stabs first at me, which I stop, I start working to play, he grabs, and now I'm working off into his other arm. Case in point right there, we don't know, because the person may go back here, but you're going to have options here to cause different things to happen. You never want to let go of the dagger thing like I just did a second ago. So the point being is you may have a second where you can cause a different type of direction to this person, which will give you a different opportunity. And that's the introduction right here, the opening statements we talk about for fifth master dagger itself.
So you can see with this right here, this is, again, a very dynamic situation where someone has latched on. And like I said in the video, they could have latched on first. This could be an escalation. This could be many different types of concepts here. Fifth master is a very, in my opinion, I kind of wonder if it was put in the middle, because all the concepts that you're going to see within Fiore's manuscript, they all kind of flood to this concept of the ugliness of the fifth master plays. Whether you go with a Sultani line or a Mandrito line or just, a Revezzo or any of these types of concepts out there, when we talk about a dagger confrontation of the 14th century, it is very, very, very likely that you're dealing with someone where eventually hands get on, and now you're trying to grab on with grab on with one hand while you're trying to stab with the other hand. Taking someone's ability to move is obviously making it so the dagger is always close. And that is a huge part of what makes fifth master very interesting to train, is because it is so incredibly dynamic and scary when someone goes on there. A couple of points here to really put out to this right here. And one of the things I think, and we're going to explore this later on here, is we may come across the point, because we're talking about he's grabbing a hoodie. And a lot of times you're seeing linens and potentially silks and wool of the period of time out there. But there's also the other question that may pop into people's heads here. I just want to put this out now, because there'll be other sections when we talk about this. But I want to put this out there right now, whereas essentially there may be parts where it'll say, hey, this is better to do with an armor. The question that some people may be wondering is, well, if that's better done with armor, well, how am I grabbing onto anything right here? What's the grabbing point? That is a big part that I think is interesting to look at, is that also talks about the layering mechanisms that you may actually see within some of the armor portions. Remember, tabards and other types of covers out there are incredibly useful at the time for identification purposes. Also, it was a way of protecting your equipment from the elements. People identified themselves being able to have tabards or surcoats and other forms and fashions at the time. So when we talk about someone grabbing onto us, it may not be just talking about someone grabbing onto metal, but talking about the surcoat portion that's on top of this. In fact, actually, I believe there is, I want to say it's Peter Faulkner, so please correct me if I'm wrong there, dear viewers. I want to say it's Peter Faulkner that talks about how you grab on and you tear into their surcoat or something along the lines. I want to say it's him, because he has a lot of his stuff is also incredibly martial in mindset, in some outside pieces about it, which is really cool to see. But in this case right here, even though the manuscript will show the person unarmored, that doesn't mean that you're not necessarily dealing with somebody who has got, that is wearing armor. And it also doesn't mean necessarily that the person that's wearing armor doesn't have something over top of it that you can grab onto, okay? Not to mention also armor itself. If you know what you're grabbing for, there's lots of handles that you have there. So anyway, with that being the case here, like I said, this is the introduction portion to Fifth Master. Fifth Master itself is, you can already tell, like I said in the very beginning, very easy to hurt somebody. That kind of breaking against the arm here it's very scary to do. I mean, and so when you have it done there, it's very jarring. So please be safe if you're trying this with a friend, or if you're training within a training hall. Fifth Master is incredibly violent. And I don't know if there's necessarily a way to do it safely as far as, sparring context is concerned. But just keep that in mind while you're training out there. But with that being the case here, that's going to conclude the video. I hope you've enjoyed this right here. Love the support I've been getting here. It's wonderful. And again, I'm really hoping to continue to push and grow this channel as far as I can. If you are new to the channel here, please consider liking and subscribing. Drop a comment down below here. Let me know what your thoughts are. Always interested to hear what people's perspectives are. And for my dear viewers out there that have been with me and continue to subscribe and look at what I've been doing here, thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for the comments, and thank you so much for sharing my videos out there if they inspire you or if you anything along those lines. Like I said, I want to grow the channel, and that's not possible without viewers like you, and I am very grateful for your support. So with that being the case here, everybody, please, as always, stay safe out there, train well, and fight on. I'll see you all soon.